Hey, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts-Weinstein, and today you are going to follow along with me as I file a real intent-to-use trademark application with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. This video is the first in a series that I am creating where you're going to actually follow along with me as I am preparing a trademark application, filing it, and hopefully getting the trademark granted. Since it's an intent to use application, I'll have some extra filings that I have to do along the way, assuming it gets granted, which is filing a statement of use and things like that. So over time, because this will take a long time, because the trademark office is taking a very long to evaluate applications, I'm going to show you the various steps that I take to get this trademark on file. So the first thing is this trademark is not for a client. It's actually for, well, it means for myself as a client, I guess you could say. I'm filing this on behalf of one of my other businesses. Elizabeth Off Grid is a YouTube channel that I have that right now is not monetized. That's why this is an intent to use application, because I'm not yet using it in commerce, which means making money on it in some way, shape, or form. But hopefully I will in the future. So first, let me show you what this business is, what this trademark is that I'm planning to register or file an application for registration. So this is my YouTube channel, my other YouTube channels, Elizabeth Off Grid. This is a channel that's a baby channel. It only has 37 subscribers. It doesn't get a whole lot of views yet. So I am not yet monetizing this channel. It's not monetized on YouTube directly, and it's also, I'm not monetizing in any other way. But I'm planning or hoping that in the next year, it will be monetized on YouTube, at least via ads, if not other ways. So that's what I'm looking at from the perspective of building a business. I also have other things that I plan to sell under this brand, but this is the first step. Now, the first thing you're doing when you're going to file a trademark application is decide whether or not it makes sense to even file this trademark application. Some of the research I've done ahead of filming this video, but first it's looking at the trademark itself and is this a good trademark? Is this something that makes sense to trademark? So Elizabeth Off Grid is a description of the genre that I'm in to some extent. The message of what this channel is about. Of course, adding my name, my first name, Elizabeth, to it adds much more distinctive aspect. This isn't an amazing trademark in the sense that I'm not going to sell this business to another person unless that person's name is also Elizabeth. Like, how would that even work, right? Because unless I'm really, really famous, it wouldn't make sense for someone to buy that. And I would stay with the brand in some way, shape, or form. So probably not something that would happen. I'm really looking at trademarking this to protect the brand from someone copying it, not to have another person named Elizabeth, but like someone who's just trying to defraud people with that brand. And if you have a trademark registered on your brand, it makes it easier for you to stop bad people from making counterfeit things or from doing fraud on other people, because you have one more thing you can show, not just to a court, but also to YouTube, to Twitter, to Facebook, to Amazon, whatever, so they believe that you're the legit one here. Now, when I do a search for Elizabeth Off Grid in Google, I'm just going to show you what the search would look like. The first thing I get is a whole bunch of stuff about me and various pictures of me and things. And then the other thing I really get is stuff that's either wildly not related, stuff about someone named Elizabeth who lives off grid, like just kind of in an article. And then a solar panel company who's in Port Elizabeth, which is a town. So there's not really people doing the same thing as me. And then you get me on various other aspects and other websites. So there's not really very many results. The issue is people saying about someone named Elizabeth living off grid. So someone on Naked and Afraid was named Elizabeth. And so they described, Elizabeth's off grid upbringing, etc. There's a possibility that could have me run into problems in the trademark office where they could say, oh, this is just a description of what you do, which is a descriptiveness objection. That's commonly happens when what you're trademarking is either a description of the thing itself. So you're trademarking a pen and you're trying to trademark the word pen. I mean, that'd be terrible. It's generic. or it is a description of kind of the message that you're delivering or the results that you give for people. And there's a lot of subjectiveness to that, a lot of just discretion that the trademark office examiner has. And some of them will reject that and some of them won't. Some of them will say it's just too generic, and some of them will say you can get into you can still register it, but just not in the primary register. You can register it in the supplemental. That's getting into the weeds a bit, and that would be something I would face when I cross that bridge when I come to it, kind of thing. But it's not a slam dunk, is a thing. However, I've decided that this, I think, is, and I've done more searches than this, by the way. I'm just giving you a hint. But I've decided that this is something that I still want to pursue. That I think it's worth the investment. And since I'm representing myself in this, then it's just the $250 for one class. That's where I'm planning to start. I'll just file in one class and see what happens. Once you've decided to do your trademark, then you want to put together all the information that you need for this trademark application. So obviously the trademark is a little bit off grid. I didn't put the owner in here, but obviously the owner would be included. Right now, I'm filing this with myself as the owner, as an individual. I'm going to be transferring it to an LLC, but I haven't created that yet. And so I'm actually doing that kind of on purpose because I want to show you how that's done so we can do the assignment. I can do a video about the assignment and transferring it over to that LLC and the paperwork I do to do that once the LLC is created, which I didn't want to do right now because I'm recording this in December and I want to create the LLC next year. So it's on next calendar year. The other big thing that you have to do before you file a trademark application is decide what the class is going to be. This is the description of product or service that you're going to use. The best thing to do is to go into the database that the trademark examiners use to find the list of all the classes, the trademark ID manual. And so I did this already and looked at many, many different classes. And what I decided was what I put in here, which is these are classes that make sense for a lot of video type services like YouTube. So if you searched in here just for a video, let's just say, because this is a YouTube channel, you're going to see that there's different classes depending upon what you're doing with video. So are you making video projectors? Are you doing video editing as a service? It really depends. One thing to remember is when you have digital content like videos, there's a different class for digital content that's downloaded. So you can see pre-recorded video discs, video recording, these kind of things that are downloaded because that's viewed as a product that has a physical aspect, even if it's electronic physical, versus video streaming, which is what YouTube is primarily. So when you look through all these, eventually you get to the kind of ones that I did, which there's way too many on here to find, but providing non-downloadable videos in the field of, and I'll talk about the field in a second, via a website. And then I did educational and entertainment services, namely a continuing program about accessible by means of video, which I think those are two good ideas for a YouTube channel that is this kind of vlogging type of channel. And so it's different than one that's just purely educational, which is like this channel that you're watching on was a more of an educational channel. I do vlogging on this. The other channel is a little bit more in the vlogging world. Now, the field or subject matter of the videos can be one thing or a whole bunch of things. And so these are the things that I put in here. You have to have an intent to actually be in all these areas, but you don't have to be doing it right this second. Because this is an intent to use application. So I put in alternative lifestyles, nomadic lifestyles, camper conversions, remote living, alternative building, homesteading, travel, technology, outdoor activities, personal development, and self-improvement. Now, one thing to consider is that is Elizabeth off-grid a generic term for any of these fields? Maybe, for remote living. Don't in here, don't talk about electronics or gridness. I say the word technology. So that's one thing to think about when you're creating your fields. If you have a service-based class that has a field or subject matter category, is you don't want to accidentally put, I don't want to say off-grid living in here. Or I don't even talk about, solar panels or whatever, like something that is literally talking about being off-grid. So it's just something to think about when you're filing your trademark application. All right, so now let's get into actually filing this. So since I'm filing it as an intent to use application, I don't have to prove that I use it or say the date I used it. Even though I'm literally using it, I'm not using it in commerce, which means I haven't made money. Since this is a service, you have to actually be providing the service in commerce. And while I'm providing the service, not making any money on it yet. No interstate commerce happening yet. All right, so the first thing I want to do is go to Apply Online and go to the Initial Application Forms, and you go to TEAS. I'm going to log in. Okay, I have logged into TEAS. And so the first thing that you do is say, are you going to be in the TEAS Plus or Standard? And is an attorney filing this application? I'm actually not filing it as an attorney. I'm filing it as an individual. I think that will be helpful for you to understand how to do this as an individual. And also, I'm not representing myself as my law firm. I'm doing it as a DIY. I don't know. So TA Plus is if you're using the classes from that trademark ID manual. And there's also some other qualifications, which I'm not going to worry about with this second. That's $250 per class. Standard is $350. If you mess up, then they charge you the difference. Most of the time, you'd rather be in TAS Plus and use their classes because it'll be easier to get approved. All right, so the owner of the mark is me. And I'm filing it as an individual. And it's going to reload the page and want to know where I'm a citizen, and I'm a citizen of the United States. And then I'm going to put in the mailing address and the domicile address. Domicile is where I'm physically located. I'm filing this as an individual. I don't yet have a business address for this, so I'll be putting in my personal address. So I will be not showing that to you. So I'm going to do that and then scroll up. So for the mailing address, I'm putting an address in here that is a virtual mailbox address. And then for the domicile address is my home address. Allegedly, the domicile address should be confidential and the trademark office should see it, but nobody else. And it's just to show that I'm a resident of the United States. And then the mailing address thing that's public. I will actually be changing this before it goes out on my trademark certificate, assuming it goes through because it'll be owned by the LLC and that will have its own mailing address. But this will work for now until I get the LLC formed and do the official assignment. The next part is to put your phone number, your email address, and website address. I don't have a website, but I do have a YouTube channel, so I'm going to put that in there so they know that that's who I am. And then I'm going to put a phone number and my personal email address. So this next screen is information about the mark, the trademark. So this is where you put in information about it. If you have a special form trademark that's like a logo, you can also do sound marks. I've actually never done a sound mark, so I do not have experience in that. You need to find a lawyer who has done sound marks if you're going to do that. So here is where I put the trademark that I'm planning to put in, and I typically always cut and paste it. I put the trademark that I'm planning to use. You can read the image to make sure LIZABHH off grid. Okay. So I need to have an additional statement, which is consent of using my name. I'm honestly not 100% sure if I have to consent since it's just my first name, but I'm going to put this in here just in case. Oh yeah, and I have to actually create a consent. So hold on, I'm going to create a consent. You need to create a consent form. Consent, I know I've done this before, so let me just find another consent. I haven't ever done one where I just use a first name. And I could do legal research to see if first names by ourselves need to have the consent. But to be honest, I've found that the trademark office changes their rules so often, or how they enforce their rules so often, that by the time someone looks at this 9 months from now, the rule could have changed. And so it's better for me to just make a decision about what seems logical at the time. Okay, so now I created that. Now I'm going to upload that to the file, and you choose the file and then you attach it. I always open it up to make sure it works. Enter the registered name, live off grid. Continue. I always get warnings like this and that stuff hasn't been properly formatted. I think there's punctuation in there, or there's like a weird space or something. I've never been able to figure out what the issue is. All right, so now I'm going to add the goods and services. So what happens is that I have the goods and services in this page. So I'm going to just cut and paste part of it. So hopefully it'll come up quickly. Okay, I'm in the field up. Okay, that is the one we're going to add. And then we're also going to do this one. And it's going to be by means of video. And this is going to be this big list. I'm going to not have the capital A, that looks weird. I'm going to put in this big list here. Same one in both of them. And then we're going to insert checked entries. So you can see here that part of this class is just like the form and template, and then part of it is what I inputted with both. All right, so now I'm going to assign a basis. A basis is like, why should you have this trademark? Section 1A basis is going to be that you're using it in commerce now. So let's say this channel was monetized, I'm using it in commerce. And then I have to give them the date and I have to show how it was used. Section 1B is what I'm doing, which is an intent to use. I intend to use this in commerce. And I'm actually going to be saying under penalty of perjury that I'm intending to use this in commerce. 44D and 44E are about foreign registrations. So if you've registered your trademark in some other country and it's either just a pending application or it's registered, then you might be able to use 44D and 44E if you've gone within certain time limits. But that is plenty. I'm not doing there. So this is both, they're both going to be section 1B. So I click on that and then it refreshes and says, I understand that since I'm filing it as an intent to use, I'm going to have to pay more fees later, which I of course know that. So I click that. Now I click that to agree, and now I'm going to assign the filing basis. And once you assign the filing basis, it adds that over here in this little chart, 1B for each one. And you can have different classes that have different filing bases and put it all in the same application. I don't know if I do that. I think I might separate it, but here we are. Okay, so they're both in, now since they're both in the same international class 41, I don't have to pay 2 fees. I just pay 1 fee because it's one, like, it's like the fee that you pay per class is about the number, not about the description part. So I hit continue. The next screen is about my correspondence information. So here I could put other email addresses that I want to use. I'm going to put another email address. So this is, I'm going to put another email address, which is my business address for that business. I left my email address as my personal email just so I would get the emails quicker, because I don't check that other one very often. Okay, so number of classes, 1, fee for class is $250. I have to declare, so what I'm saying is that I believe that I'm the owner. I believe that it's either in use in commerce, or in this case, it is, I have a bona fide intention to use the mark in commerce, that everything is accurate to my knowledge and belief. Nobody else has the right. I've made a reasonable inquiry, I've done a search, etc. And that, you know, this is on a penalty of perjury, so this is a real deal. So I can sign it. I'm doing this as the owner. I'm not doing this as a lawyer. Then I'm going to put my phone number. Now, one thing I recommend you do is right click on this input beneath this next screen and check everything that you filed and make sure that it's right. Understand this notice that nothing is confidential. So except for things like your residence, your domicile address is sort of confidential. All right, now the last thing to do is to pay submit and put in a credit card. Okay, so after that, you get your immediately, assuming the payment went through and everything, then you get a serial number right then, and you get a receipt. And you can click on that. It also goes to your email address, but it's good to click on that and open it up. Make sure everything's right. Elizabeth off grid. It gives you information and then gives you all the stuff that you filed. So that's how it works to get a intent to use application on file with the Patent and Trademark Office. And this is a real one I just filed for myself for my side business, Elizabeth Off Grid. So we'll see what happens. And I expect that they'll get back to me in 6 to 9 to 12 months. We shall see. And then we'll find out what happens, and I'll record a video about that and about the decisions I make then and share that with y'all. If you have any questions about what I did today, feel free to post them below and I'll try to point you in the right direction. Thumbs up if you found this video helpful or interesting. Hit subscribe if you like to watch more videos like this. And then of course you can join the Discord or the Patreon to have more ways to connect with me and other business owners like you and get more resources, including I just added in the Patreon a checklist with a 44-minute long video that goes along with it for you to get your trademark application on file. So that's a great resource for you if you want to join the Patreon. And the lowest level of Patreon is $5. So it's very, very affordable to get those kinds of resources. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll talk to you next time and whenever I hear back from the Patent and Trademark Office about this video. Bye-bye.